Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the sport of basketball inside the NBA world. In today's bonus segment, I'll be covering all the NBA Christmas games that took place on Christmas Day. This segment today will be my NBA Christmas game day summaries. So in the first game, you've seen an Eastern Conference matchup between the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The New York Knicks defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers by a score of 126 to 124. Now, this was a competitive game in the Eastern Conference between the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch this game live because I did go to the NFL game in the 1 o'clock window Christmas Day between the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders. But as I digress, it was a good matchup between the Knicks and the Cavs. I mean, the stars came to play for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson scored 34 points. Jordan Clarkson scored 25 points. Tyler Kolek scored a lot of points. And Mitchell Robinson, both of them stepped up tremendously off the bench for the New York Knicks in this game. And they overcame a 17-point deficit in this game and had a huge comeback against the Cleveland Cavaliers at home in Madison Square Garden. But it felt like when I was watching the highlights, the Knicks wanted it more in the fourth quarter. Miles Bridges came up clutch with a clutch mid-range shot. Jalen Brunson had a clutch mid-range shot. Karl-Anthony Towns had a clutch putback with under 30 seconds to go in the game to help the New York Knicks jump to a two-possession lead late in the fourth quarter with under 30 seconds left in the ball game. But I will give credit to the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially Donovan Mitchell, when they were down by 2 possessions late in the fourth quarter. Donovan Mitchell had a nasty posterizer that he gave to OG for a late Christmas gift at Madison Square Garden. And then Donovan Mitchell was still doing everything he could to help the Cavs get back in the ball game. He had a clutch step back 3 with 2.4 seconds left on the clock in the game, but it wasn't enough. And I will give credit to the Cavs because you are playing one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference and the New York Knicks on Christmas Day in Madison Square Garden. But the players stepped up. Certain players for the Cavs stepped up. Donovan Mitchell scored 34 points, had 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Darius Garland stepped up as well, 20 points, 10 assists. Evan Mobley had 14 points. But when you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers this year, they're not the same team that I raved about a year ago on this podcast in the Eastern Conference. They struggled a bit this year, and it's not necessarily all their fault. They battled through injuries, but they don't look the same defensively. And they allowed too many points in fast break, too many transition points defensively this year. And they've already lost almost as many games as they did last year at this point. I mean, last year they only lost 18 games last year in the NBA season. And they're starting to slip down the Eastern Conference standings as we speak. So the Cleveland Cavaliers, I still think they're one of the best teams in the East, but I thought they would have eventually took another step forward in the East. Look, the landscape is still good, but the back door is open for somebody to step up this year, whether it's the Knicks or the Cavs, because the Celtics aren't the same. We know Jason Tatum is out for the year. The Indiana Pacers aren't the same because Tyrese Halliburton is down for the year. Like, it's wide open for one of these teams to step up. Right now, it's looking like the New York Knicks are going to take that opportunity, and the Cavs are starting to slide down the Eastern Conference standings. We'll move on to the next game. The San Antonio Spurs defeated the Oklahoma City Thunder by a score of 117 to 102. Now, it seems to me that Oklahoma City Thunder have a Spurs problem because they lost not 1, not 2, but 3 games to the San Antonio Spurs in a 12-day span, and 2 significant ones. I mean, you dropped the game against San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Cup semifinals in the NBA Cup tournament. Then you lose Christmas Day at home against San Antonio Spurs. It looks like the Spurs has the Oklahoma City Thunder's number, but the Spurs players, the stars, showed up for this game on the road. I mean, De'Aaron Fox scored 29 points. Victor Wembanyama had a double-double, scoring 19 points and 11 rebounds. Stephon Castle scored 19 points to go with 7 assists. Like, the Spurs came to play in this game, and they were effective shooting from the field. Offensively, they shot 53% from the field, and defensively, they were on their A game, on their P's and Q's against the Oklahoma City Thunder because they held them to 38.9% shooting from the field. So that's very impressive for the Spurs offensively, defensively this game on the road against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But the Spurs just had their way on the road, and they were effective defensively. Something I want to point out as well, I think if these two teams match up in the playoffs, the Oklahoma City Thunder could have a problem, because it seems like Chet Holmgren cannot fuck with Victor Wembanyama on the court, both ends of the court. I think that's a problem there. And in this game, they jumped out to an 85-68 lead in the third, at the midway point of the third quarter. So it seems like if these two teams match up, possibly in the Western Conference Finals, right now you got to favor the Spurs over the reigning defending NBA champions in the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is crazy to say, as good as they are on both sides of the ball. But we got to give the San Antonio Spurs their credit for defeating the champions 3 times in a 12-day span. Not really much to cover for the Warriors defeating the Mavericks. They coasted to a victory of 126-116. Next game in the West, you had the Houston Rockets defeat the Los Angeles Lakers on the road by a score of 119-96. Now, this was a good bounce-back win for the Houston Rockets, because 2 days prior, they were playing in L.A. against the other L.A. team, the Los Angeles Clippers, but they got a BTA special on the road in L.A., so they bounced back against the other team in L.A., this time the Los Angeles Lakers. But the Rockets, they were going offensively. They had 6 players in double-digit figures in this game. They never trailed in the ball game on the road in L.A., which was impressive. But the Lakers, once Austin Reeves went down in this game due to a calf injury, other than Luka Doncic and LeBron James, the Lakers didn't really have an offensive spark to lean on. But even Luka Doncic and LeBron James could not get going shooting 3-pointers, because they both combined 4 for 11 shooting from the field for beyond the 3-point arc. So it seems like JJ Redick's got some work to do with this Los Angeles Lakers team. He even openly admitted in an interview after the game, like, it seems like the Lakers don't want it, or they're not awakened yet, as I can tell that. They're not awake yet. But that's alarming, because we're basically through the midway point, not at the nearway point, but the first quarter of the NBA season we just passed. And the Los Angeles Lakers, he still has doubts about this team. So we'll see if they can turn it around in the Western Conference. And in the final game that I'll cover, the Denver Nuggets defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves by a score of 142-138 in overtime. Now, I think this was the game of the year in the NBA thus far, between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves on Christmas Day. That thriller game going into overtime. But Nikola Jokic had one hell of a day. One of the best performances that I've seen in a very long time from a big man. 50, and I said in a long time, might be all time, because he scored 56 points, 11 rebounds, and 15 assists in this game. Him and Jamal Murray both combined for 91 points scoring in this victory against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think Nikola Jokic scored 16 or 17 points in overtime. That's the first player to ever do that since Steph Curry did that for the Golden State Warriors back in 2016. So it was a very impressive day in the office for Nikola Jokic, Christmas Day, in front of his home crowd in Denver, Colorado. But the Nuggets, even in this game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, they were down 3 starters in the starting lineup for this game. No problem, because Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray balled out. But I do give the Minnesota Timberwolves a lot of credit for fighting back in this ball game with 5.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They were trailing by 15 points, but still rallied back to push the game into overtime. And I gave Anthony Edwards a lot of credit for hitting that clutch step back fadeaway 3 to push the game into overtime. And I give him a lot of credit because he was battling a shoulder injury as the game went on. You can see him favoring his shoulder as the game went on, especially when he was on the sidelines. I think they had a little harness or a little sling for him on the sideline, I believe, at the end of the first, early second quarter. But Anthony Edwards still balled out, shoulder injury or not. He dropped 44 points, a special day in the office for him, in losing fashion for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But I hope these two teams match up. It seems like they could possibly match up in the playoffs when it matters most. But right now, the Denver Nuggets have the Minnesota Timberwolves number in the regular season, because they're now 3-0 against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the regular season thus far, after going past the first quarter of the NBA season. But that is my thoughts on the NBA Christmas games, the slate of Christmas games this year for the NBA. That is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off, and I'll see you guys on next week's episode.